Right in the way, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, brethren, I welcome you today to this auspicious solemnity. I hope you will enjoy it. Who here has never been in a Masonic Lodge? We have any? Oh, we have some. Great. A few little explanations of the lodge itself. The lodge room represents King Solomon's temple. And these three stations, we call them, represent the three gates of King Solomon's temple, one in the east, one in the west, one in the south. And we call them stations because they had guards stationed at those gates of King Solomon's temple. The two columns over here represent Jochid and Boaz, who were the large brazen pillars that were set up at the entrance porch of King Solomon's temple. And our degree work is based upon the building of King Solomon's temple. And Freemasonry had its origins in the stonemasons. Now in the 4.5 billion years of the Earth's existence, the human race has only dominated it for the last 30,000 years. And during that time, truly one of the first professions was stonemasons. You know, throughout the world, there are buildings or walls that still stand. No one knows who built them. And they fit together so perfectly that any night on TV, you can watch a program about ancient aliens came down and built these things. No, they didn't. They were built by stonemasons who were organized in, we'll call it a guild, we'll call it a union today. And this was a lifetime job. You didn't get hired, so to say. You applied to be able to join this fraternity of workers. And the first position was called an entered apprentice. They did the hard work. And that's what we call the first degree, entered apprentice mason. And they learned to, these two stones here, the rough asher and the perfect asher, this would represent the work of an entered apprentice mason. And to take this rock and make this basic shape of a certain size, and from there, it would go to the fellow craft who had learned more, and he would shape it, work perfectly, polish it. It's going to be a certain size because these all have to fit together in the building. And a master mason would draw the designs for which they're going to do their work, and the masters would draw the designs for the building. So our three degrees are the entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. And each degree, there are hidden lessons in them. Thank you, Brother. Yes, sir. That a lot of people never recognize, which I can't explain what they are, but what they mean is the education that a person has gone through. You got to remember, these were educated men. They learned mathematics. They learn to read and write. And so education is so important to Freemasons. Any lodge in the old days of this country, a new town such as Huntington or Jacksonville, one of the first buildings erected was a Masonic lodge. And they were two-story. The lodge met upstairs. Downstairs was a town meeting place where the church was held, and a schoolhouse. And the Masons provided the books, provided the material, paid the teacher's salary. And so education today is still very important for Freemasonry. We support it very strongly. And it is the largest charitable organization in the world. It's larger than the Red Cross. You take all of the 50 grand lodges in this country, and then most other countries have one, maybe two or three grand lodges, in just different size of the country, basically. And There are millions of dollars every day in charitable work. Just take the Scottish Rite Crippled Children's Hospital or the Shrine Burn Centers, which are totally free. No charges, no one is ever charged for the excellent work that's done. And they have the best doctors, the very best. These three stations, the east, there are 3 steps representing the 3 degrees, 2 in the west and 1 in the south. Now, if you notice, I'm wearing a hat. The master always wears a hat, and it is a sign of his authority. And also the fact that no one else wears a hat. The only other headwear that can be worn in Masonic Lodge is a Jewish yarmulke. And I've been in lodges where I've seen men wearing them. To become a Mason, we don't ask people to join. Most people think, well, they've never asked me to join. Why they ask you? No, I asked them. and then they fill out a petition to join the lodge with basic information about yourself. And then an investigating committee is appointed. And they will meet with you and they will make a recommendation. Then a secret ballot is taken. And if you pass, you get to become an apprentice Mason. And you have a lot of stuff to learn. It's all memory work. It's not written down. You learn it from one person to another. And turn that lesson in and pass on to the fellow craft and so forth. Now there are 3 appendant bodies, the York Rite, the Scottish Rite, and Shrine. And those are not higher degrees. You're here to turn 32nd degree Mason. The highest you can go in Masonry is a 3rd degree, Master Mason. You have to be a Master Mason to join any of the others. And you go further, you can go further, but you can never go higher than a Master Mason. We meet on a level. I serve in the Grand Lodge of Texas Merchandise Sales Committee, which is the only committee in the Grand Lodge that is annually appointed for life. You have to die to get off of that committee. But you meet everybody. And we're around the Grand Lodge officers all the time. If you want to be the Grand Master, there's 2 committees you want to serve on to meet everybody. That's Committee on Work and Merchandise Sales. And several Grand Masters have come from the Committee on Work, but no one from the Merchandise Sales, because we're around them all the time. We see what they go through. We see them age in that time they're going through the chairs. I mean, they'll have a friend that is past Grand Master of Louisiana named Frank DeBrill, and when I first met Frank, he was Grand Junior Warden, and his hair was totally black. And I didn't see him again until he was a past Grand Master of Louisiana, and his hair is totally gray. I almost didn't recognize him. Good gosh, if Louisiana did that too, just Texas would have killed him. I want to introduce one person here today. He's almost asleep over there, my good friend Al Birch. Al and I made a trip nearly to Mississippi one time. It was a trip almost too long, and we went to the Civil War fort over the Ouachita River. It's what's the Louisiana Master Mason's degree put on by Pelican Lodge number 1860, which is a reconstituted Civil War lodge. It was a lodge formed of a battery of Louisiana Tigers that have always been known for the Civil War. It disbanded after the war, but it was a traveling lodge, and it still is. Now, we saw the first degree that this lodge put on since the Civil War, and they did it in Civil War uniforms. It was a lot of fun, but it was one long day. We're coming back across Louisiana, we're hungry, and we could find nowhere to eat. And so we stopped at a gas station, and I went and asked the guy, where can we get something to eat? And where's the restaurant? I don't know, I eat home. We finally found a Mexican restaurant that was open. Louisiana Mexican food's a little different than it is here. But It was very good, the husband and I. We were hungry. And that brief description of masonry, I hope, is sufficient. It's, excuse me. My voice kind of going in a little bit, my eyes are watering. They like to start off things a little bit of humor. Help me relax a little bit too. I'm tired, not having no air conditioning in the house thanks to the child shoving something in the air unit, breaking fans late. So I don't get a lot of sleep. You know, it's about 2 in the morning before it cools off enough to actually go to sleep, and then the alarm goes off at 4. But I like Cajun jokes. And Boudreaux and Thibodeau, they got off work one Saturday morning, they got paid. They went and bought a bunch of booze. They spent all day Saturday afternoon and all day Saturday night drinking. They got up on Sunday morning and started walking home, and it commenced to raining on them. And Boudreaux said, "Hey, Thibodeau, let's go in that church house there and get out of the rain." And Thibodeau said, "Let's do that." So they went into the church, sat on the back row, and the preacher looked at it and he called the senior deacon. He said, "You know who them 2 fellas is?" "Oh, I ain't never seen them 2 fellas before." "We take up collection, you find out who they is." So it came time to take collection, and the senior deacon went back there to them. By now, Boudreaux and Thibodeau, they felt so bad. Here they'd spent all day Saturday afternoon and all day Saturday night drinking, and now they're in church. So they took all the money they had left, put it in the collection plate. The senior deacon went back and preached, "You find out who them fellas is?" "I didn't find out who they is, but I'll tell you this much about them. They smells like Catholics, but they gives like Baptists." That's when the ladies always like. Your Grandma Boudreaux, she's in the kitchen making gumbo. Grandpa Boudreaux, he's laid in the bed dying. And he wakes up and smells that gumbo cooking. He looks over and sees his little 5-year-old grandson, Pierre, standing in the doorway looking at him. He says, "Pierre, go in the kitchen and tell Grandma I want a cup of that gumbo." So Pierre came back in a little bitty cup. And he ate it. He says, "Oh, that gumbo's so good. Pierre, you go back in the kitchen. Tell Grandma I want another cup of that gumbo." Pierre came back and said, "Grandma says you can't have no more gumbo. She's making that for the wake." Well, let's get started. Brother Marshall, you call the roll of workman. Roll of workman. That's in his degrees. You call the roll of officers.
Worcester Master Elect, Ernie Ballard. Senior Warden, Larry Martin. Junior Warden, Kevin Martin. Treasurer, Carl Hadaway. Secretary, Doyle Thornton. Chaplain, Luther Barr. Senior Deacon, Preston Smith. Junior Deacon, Brian McMullen. Marshal, James Russell. Master of Ceremonies, Barney Lindemann. Tyler, Edward Pugh.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are officers this coming year at Homer Lodge. They will devote a lot of time to this lodge, a lot of time to masonry. And I want to thank you, brethren, for giving you your time, your devotion to Freemasonry, and us to the service of this world. I congratulate you and applaud you. Y'all may be seated. I've got one special introduction I want to make. My little travel partner today is Maria Hatfield. She's 8 years old. She's been in my house for a couple of years now. And Maria's first trip to the Masonic Lodge, she met Santa Claus for the first time. And she had no idea that Santa Claus was a Mason. But soon realized that he just had to be as good as he is. All right. You may got more energy than me. You may have to go out home after this long day with
Worshipful Master, I present the officers elected and appointed to Homer Lodge number 254 for installation. I believe each of them to be well qualified to discharge the duties of his office, and each has signified his willingness to accept the same. I therefore ask that they be duly and truly and constitutionally installed in their respective offices.
Brother Marshall, you will present the worshipful master-elect for installation. The remaining officers may be seated. Worshipful sir and brethren, I take pleasure in installing you into this honorable office with the usual ceremonies, but previous to being invested with the insignia of your office, it is necessary that you should signify your assent to those ancient charters and regulations which point out the duty of a masterly lodge. You agree to be a good man and true, and strictly to obey the moral law. You agree to be a peaceable citizen, and cheerfully to conform to the laws of the country in which you reside. You promise not to be concerned in plots and conspiracies against government, but patiently to submit to the decisions of the Supreme Legislature. You agree to pay a proper respect to the civil magistrate, to work diligently, live credibly, and act honorably toward all men. You agree? And their regular successors, supreme and subordinate, according to their stations, and to submit to the awards and resolutions of your brethren when convened, in every case consistent with the constitutions of the order. You agree to avoid private piques and quarrels, and to guard against temperance and excess. You agree to be cautious in carriage and behavior, courteous to your brethren, and faithful to your lodge. You promise to respect genuine brethren, and to discountenance impostors and all dissenters from the original plan of Masonry. You agree to promote the general good of society, to cultivate the social virtues, and to propagate the knowledge of the art. You promise to pay homage to the Grand Master for the time being and to his officers when duly installed, and strictly to conform to every edict of the Grand Lodge or General Assembly of Masons that is not subversive of the principles and groundwork of Masonry. You admit that it is not in the power of any man or body of men to make innovations in the body of Masonry. You promise a regular attendance on the committees and communications of the Grand Lodge on receiving proper notice, and to pay attention to all the duties of Masonry on convenient occasions. You admit that no new lodge shall be formed without permission of the Grand Lodge, and that no countenance be given to any irregular lodge, or to any person who may be initiated therein, being contrary to the ancient charges of the order. You admit that no person can be regularly made a Mason in, or admitted a member of any regular lodge, without previous notice, and due inquiry into his character. You admit that you agree that no visitor shall be received into your lodge without due examination and producing proper vouchers of their having been initiated in a regular lodge. These are the regulations of free and accepted Masons. Do you submit to these charges and promise to support these regulations, as masters have done in all ages before you?
Yes, I do, sir.
Brother Battle, in token of your assent to the charges and regulations of the order, you are now to be installed master of this lodge, in full confidence of your care, skill, and capacity to govern the same. Brother Marshall, you will invest the worshipful master with the insignia of his office, which is a square. The various implements of the profession are emblematic of our conduct in life. Upon this occasion, we carefully enumerated the holy writings, that great light in Masonry, will guide you to all truth. It will direct your path to the temple of happiness and point out to you the whole duty of man The square teaches us to regulate our actions by rule and line, to harmonize our conduct by the principles of morality and virtue. The compasses teach us to limit our desires in every station, that rising to eminence by merit, we may live respected, die regretted. The rule directs that we shall punctually observe our duty, press forward in the path of virtue, and neither inclining to the right nor to the left in all our actions, have eternity in view. The line teaches us the criterion of moral rectitude, to avoid dissimulation in conversation and action, and to direct our steps in the path which leads to immortality. The book of Constitution you are to search at all times, cause it to be read in your lodge, that none may pretend to ignorance of the excellent precepts in the forms. You now receive in charge the charter, by the authority of which this lodge is held. You are carefully to preserve and duly transmit it to your successor in office. Lastly, you receive in charge the bylaws of your lodge, which you are to see carefully and punctually execute. Brother Marshall, you will seat the worshipful master and present the senior warden-elect for installation. Brother Marshall, you will invest the senior warden with the insignia of his office, which is the level. Brother Martin, the level demonstrates that we are descended from the same stock, partake of the same nature, and share the same hope. And though distinctions among men are necessary to preserve subordination, yet no eminence of station should make us forget that we are brethren. For he who is placed in the lowest spoke of fortune's wheel may be entitled to our regard, because the time will come, and the wisest knows not how soon, when all distinction but that of goodness shall cease, and death, the grand leveler of human greatness, reduce us to the same state. Your regular attendance at our stated meetings is essentially necessary. In the absence of the master, you are to govern this lodge. In his presence, you are to assist him in the government of it. I firmly rely on your knowledge of masonry and attachment to the lodge, the faithful discharge of the duties of this important trust. Look well to the west. Brother Marshall, you will seat the senior warden and present the junior warden elect for installation. Brother Marshall, you invest the junior warden with the insignia of his office, which is the diploma. Brother Martin, the plumb admonishes us to walk uprightly at our several stations, to hold the scale of justice in equal poise, to observe the just medium between intemperance and pleasure, and to make our passions and prejudices coincide with the line of our duty. To you is committed the superintendence of the craft during the hours of refreshment. It is therefore indispensably necessary that you should not only be temperate and discreet in the indulgence of your own inclinations, but carefully observe that none of the craft be suffered to convert the means of refreshment into intemperance and excess. Brother Marshall, you will seat the junior warden and present the treasurer elected for installation. Brother Marshall, you will invest the treasurer with the insignia of his office, which is the crossed keys. Brother Hathaway, it is your duty to receive all monies from the secretary, Make due entries thereof, and pay them out by order of the worshipful master and consent of the lodge. I trust your regard for the welfare of the order will prompt you to discharge the duties of your office with fidelity. Brother Marshall, you will seat the treasurer and present the secretary-elect for installation. Brother Marshall, you will invest the secretary with the insignia of his office, which is the cross quills. Brother Thornton, I share an office with you. I was secretary of Jacksonville 108. Brother Thornton, it is your duty to carefully observe all the proceedings of the lodge. Make a correct record of all things proper to be written. Receive all monies due the lodge, and pay them over to the treasurer, taking his receipt for the same. I trust your good wishes for the welfare of this lodge will prompt you to discharge the duties of your office with fidelity, and by so doing you will merit esteem and applause of your brethren. Brother Marshall, you will seat the secretary and present the chaplain for installation. Brother Marshall, you will invest the chaplain with the insignia of his office, which is the open Holy Bible. Brother Barrow, it is your duty to perform those solemn ceremonies which we should constantly render to our Creator, and which, when offered by one whose example is to point to heaven and lead the way, may, by refining our souls, strengthening our virtues, and purifying our minds, prepare us for admission into the society of those above, where happiness will be as endless as it is perfect. Brother Marshall, you will seat the chaplain and present the senior and junior deacons for installation. Brother Marshall, you will invest the deacon with the badges of their offices, which are the square and compasses. Brother Smith and McMullen, it is your province to attend on the master and wardens and to act as their proxies in the active duties of the lodge, such as the reception of candidates into the different degrees of masonry, the introduction and accommodation of visitors, and the immediate practice of our rites. Square and compasses as badges of your office, I entrust to your care, not doubting your vigilance and attention. Brother Marshall, you will seat the deacons and present the marshal and master of ceremonies for installation. Brother Marshall, you will invest the marshal and master of ceremonies with the insignia of their offices, which are the cross batons and the cross swords. Brothers Russell and Linderman, It is your duty to assist the senior deacon in preparing candidates for initiation and to see that the candidate's needs are provided, such as a candidate information program, ritualistic instruction, Masonic education, and information concerning the customs and usages of Masonry. For the marshal, you will seek the marshal and master of ceremonies, represent the Tyler for installation. Brother Marshal, you will invest the Tyler with the insignia of his office, which is the sword. For the few, I present you with the implement of your office. As a sword is placed in the hands of the Tyler to enable him to guard against the approach of cowards and eavesdroppers and permit none to pass except those who are duly qualified, so it should admonish us to set a guard over our thoughts, a watch at our lips, post a sentinel over our actions, thereby preventing the approach of every unworthy thought and deed, thus preserving consciences void of offense toward God and man. For the marshal, you will seek the Tyler and present the worshipful master for the charge. Worshipful sir and brother, to your care is committed the charter of this lodge, the government of the brethren who compose the same, and are within the jurisdiction of said lodge. You cannot be insensible of the obligations which devolve on you as their head, nor of your responsibility for the faithful discharge of the important duties annexed to said station. The honor, reputation, and usefulness of your lodge will materially depend upon the skill with which you manage its concerns, while the happiness of its members will be generally promoted in proportion to the zeal and ability with which you propagate the genuine principles of our institution. For a pattern of imitation, consider the great luminary of nature, which rising in the east regularly diffuses light and luster to all within its circle. In like manner, it is your province to spread and communicate light and instruction to the brethren of your lodge. Forcibly impress upon them the dignity and high importance of Masonry, and seriously admonish them never to disgrace them. Charge them to practice out of the lodge those duties which they have been taught in it, and by virtuous, amiable, and discreet conduct, to convince mankind of the goodness of the institution, so that when a person is said to be a member of it, the world may know that he is one to whom the burdened heart may pour out his sorrows, to whom distress may prefer its suit, whose hand is guided by justice, and whose heart is expanded by benevolence. In short, by a diligent observance of the bylaws of your lodge, Constitution of Masonry, and, above all, the Holy Scriptures, which are given as a rule and guide to your faith, you will be enabled to acquit yourself with honor and reputation, and lay upon a crown of rejoicing which shall continue. Time shall be no more. For the marshal, you will seek the worshipful master in the east, and present the wardens for the charge. My brothers, you are too well acquainted with the principles of masonry to warrant any distrust that you will be found wanting in the discharge of your respective duties. Suffice it to say that what you have seen praiseworthy in others, you should carefully imitate. And what in them may have appeared defective, you should in yourselves amend. You should be examples of good order and regularity, for it is only by due regard to the laws in your own conduct that you can expect obedience to them from others. You are to assist a master in the discharge of his trust, diffusing light and imparting knowledge to all whom he shall place under your care. In the absence of the master, you will succeed to higher duties. Your requirements must therefore be such that the craft may never suffer for the want of proper instruction. From the spirit which you have hitherto evinced, I entertain no doubt that your future conduct will be such as to merit the applause of your brethren, the testimony of a good conscience. The marshal will seat the wardens in their respective stations. The members of this lodge will please rise. Brethren, such is the nature of our Constitution, that some must of necessity rule and teach, while others must, of course, learn to submit and obey. Humility in both is an essential duty. The officers who are elected and appointed to govern your lodge are sufficiently conversant with the rules of propriety and the laws of Masonic order to avoid exceeding the powers with which they are entrusted. And you are too generous dispositions to envy their preferment. I therefore trust that you will have but one aim, and that will be to try to please each other and to unite in the grand design of being happy and communicating happiness. Finally, my brethren, as the business of this lodge has been conducted in peace and harmony, so may it long continue. May you and your associates long enjoy every satisfaction and delight which this instant friendship can afford. May kindness and brotherly affection distinguish your conduct as men and as masons. Within your peaceful walls, may your children's children celebrate with joy and gratitude the annual recurrence of this auspicious solemnity, and may the tenets of our profession be transmitted through your lodge, pure and unimpaired, from generation to generation. Brother Marshal, you will proclaim the installation. The audience will please rise.
You want me to seat this first? No. In the name and by the authority of the most worshipful Grand Lodge of Texas, I declare that the officers of Homer Lodge number 254, ancient, free, and accepted Masons, duly and constitutionally installed.
Thank you, Brother Marshal. Worshipful Master, there is no higher honor that can be bestowed upon a member of a lodge to be elected as the Worshipful Master, to be asked to lead him for a whole year. We talk about the Golden Trowel being the highest award. That is not quite true. This is the highest award a lodge can, because they are entrusting you with the care of the lodge, the care of the charter, and the government. I congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
And I will be uncovering, and you will take it soon easy.
Everyone, please be seated. As custom calls for it, First of all, I am very humbled today to accept this office in this lodge. I came to this lodge, it seems like a short time ago, from my parent lodge in Montville. And the brothers here have accepted me and have accepted my wife into this community in a way that left no doubt about the brotherly love part of our tenant. And I really want to thank you, brethren of this lodge, wholeheartedly this morning. I think you deserve a round of applause. I'd like to introduce some guests and visitors and then give the other brothers a chance to introduce any visitors or guests that they may have this morning. And I'm honored this morning to have some friends, family, and guests from other lodges here. So at this time, I would like to introduce some visiting brethren from Old River Lodge number 1442. Seated in the back is Brother Jim Kim, Brother Jack Sumter. Seated next to him is Brother Frank Llewellyn, and seated next to him is Brother Mike Hammock. Brethren, I appreciate y'all being here from Old River 1442. Thank you. Thank you, Friends Volley. Brother Jerry, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
That'd be
Moving down to this, Dr. Glenn Davis and his
I
wife.
appreciate being asked to serve again and all. I'm here alone today, but I appreciate asking, being asked to serve.
Well, I'm here alone today, except for my brothers and sisters and all. And so I'm just thankful to have a job here. Hope that I serve it well this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Junior past master, do you have anyone you'd like to recognize?
No, I don't have anybody here today, just myself. I'm glad y'all enabled me to serve last year, and I'm proud to do that.
This man has served as worshipful master of this lodge twice for an extended period of time, and I think we owe him a round of applause and thanks for what he's done.
Thank you.
Of course, Master, we don't need to forget the great cooks that come in here on our breakfast mornings and prepare our breakfast for us. We've been giving Brother Dole a hard time, saying we're going to invent the golden biscuit award and give it to him. But these guys and ladies that help contribute to our meals every time we have it, we owe them a big round of applause. They put a lot of work into it.
Brett, would you like to stand up and introduce anyone?
Colin Prince, the entered apprentice here at the Homer Lodge. I'd like to introduce my wife, Ashley Pritt. Thank her for standing by me as we go through this together. We're both learning as we go through. So
We're proud to have both y'all here. Thank you very much. I didn't introduce Brother Hal Greer from Lufkin Lodge number 669, but if you can stand please, Brother Greer is a longtime member of Lufkin Lodge and a part-time supporter of this lodge too, so we're proud to have you here.